We welcome once again, of course, Andrew White. Andrew, something special very close to your heart, having ministered there for a number of years, is Coventry Cathedral. And we've been talking previous weeks about the seven deadly sins. Not that they're in the Bible, but they're the spin-off, the collateral is there.
Yes,
And
they are the collateral, the seven deadly sins.
we're going to start off by just mentioning a bit about Coventry. It's the first cathedral to be bombed, wasn't it?
Coventry Cathedral was bombed by the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, on the 14th of November 1940, right at the beginning of the Second World War. And it was a momentous occasion, and Winston Churchill is filmed walking in the ruins of the old cathedral just 2 days afterwards. And it was a highly significant event, and it's never been forgotten. And literally, the day after the bombing, two things were held. Two of the beams of the cathedral were taken and placed as a cross. And then later on, the dean of the cathedral at the time took three of the nails from the roof and they welded them together and they created a cross called the Cross of Nails. And now there are literally hundreds of places all over the world which are centers of the community of the Cross of Nails, where the Cross of Nails has been prevented. And in this very room, my study, I have real copies of the real Cross of Nails set in stone of the original destroyed cathedral. And I'll show all of those things in the next session.
That's great. Now, the old walls still exist, and the new cathedral is built beside.
The old walls still exist. Worship still takes place. Every week they share the Litany of the Reconciliation, which is what we're looking at now. And in my 7 years at Coventry Cathedral, I headed up what was called the International Centre of Reconciliation, which was a whole worldwide ministry which was created out of that terrible day. And it's to this very day, it's the biggest reconciliation ministry in the world. And the very heart of that ministry is the Coventry Cross of Nails and the Litany of Reconciliation. It goes through the seven deadly sins, and after each one, so it begins with all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and the response is just two words: Father, forgive.
Now, those two words actually were written in what remains of the old cathedral behind the altar. That is there still to be seen.
It is still to this day. And when the provost of the day wrote those words up, people said, why haven't you written, Father, forgive them? He said, no, Father, forgive, because we all need to be forgiven. We, as the followers of Christ, need to be forgiven as much as the people who dropped this bomb on us. And Coventry developed these incredible relationships with people all around the world, and particularly in Germany. One of the things that Coventry did in response to the bombing of Coventry was that Britain bombed Dresden, and the cathedral in Dresden was even bigger than Coventry Cathedral, and many people were killed in Dresden. And Dresden created the Deaconess Hospital and a whole community based around the Coventry Cross of Nails. And when the new Dresden Cathedral was restored, just a few years after I arrived in Coventry, I went over and presented them the real Cross of Nails with the Duke of Kent. We presented it together. And so Dresden is still part of the Coventry community of the Cross of Nails.
We're going to go through quite quickly headlines of what these 7 features are. And I'm going to start with number 1, which is hatred.
And these are from the 7 deadly sins. And the first one begins with, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And the response is, Father, forgive. And so as we look at the inadequacy of us all, we begin with the words, Father, forgive. We have all failed. And this is one of the greatest messages, I think, that comes out of my own ministry of reconciliation, is really based on the whole Coventry litany of reconciliation. And who am I and what do I stand for? I stand for something which came out of destruction. And it's very interesting to see that so many years later, the Coventry story still lives on.
The next headline is covetousness. I want.
The covetous desires which divide nation from nation, people from people. We repent and say, Father, forgive. Covetousness is right at the heart of so much evil in the world today. And we say, no, we can, we will overcome. Father, forgive.
Greed is the next one, Andrew.
And greed is right at the heart of so much of what we see in society today. Everybody is about what they can get. What they want. And we ask God to forgive us from the greed which breaks down society. Forgive us from the greed which is destroying our very being. And we say, Father, forgive. The greed which separates us from each other will separate us from God's intentions for us. And so we repent and say, Father, forgive.
Envy and greed are closely linked, of course, because I want your land, I shall take it.
Absolutely, they're intimately linked with each other.
We're going to move on to what we can say is indifference to others. Oh, don't really care as long as I am number one.
And indifference is one of the other major things which prevents us as people moving forward. And the indifference to the plight of others. One of the things about the Coventry Litany is that we must always consider others as much as ourselves. And we say, Father, forgive.
We move on to a popular sin, let's call it, for the 20th and 21st centuries, lust.
Well, lust is that thing which really breaks society apart by looking for sexual desires and tying so much up with our sexual wants and sexual demands. And we know that we have got to repent of the lust of the flesh and the lust of our heart and the lust of our communities. And we say, Father, forgive.
The last one, pride. Remembering the Apostle Paul with faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. And pride can be the same. It can be the real demon of sins, can't it?
I think pride is the real demon of sins. And it's very interesting because as we do this on Saturday, the 28th of June, we are in what is called Petertide, because the 29th of June is the feast of Saint Peter and Saint Paul. And that day is very important for me because it is the kind of patron saint of all clergy, because it is an ember day. It's one of the days that the church around the whole world ordains people. And Peter and Paul, Peter was the apostle to the Gentiles and Paul the apostle to the Jews. And the wonderful thing for me about this day, it's the very heart of what I stand for. And it was the day I was born. Tomorrow is my birthday. So it all comes out of this. And is all joined together in reconciliation.
Now, one must say before we close, Andrew, every day of the week there's a service, midday in Coventry Cathedral around this
Every day,
Father Forgive.
the Litany of Reconciliation is there and said.
Thank you so much again, Andrew. Nice to think back on these things and dwell a little bit prayerfully on each of the headlines. And you can find the whole links by asking Mr. Google, and he will tell you about Father Forgive. And it's
I want to actually, in one of our upcoming shows, I want to just literally show you a lot of these key symbols of my own ministry. Remarkable things I have, like the cross of nails, like the pictures of Anne Frank and of various other religious key leaders. People who have been very important to me, like Billy Graham and the grand Ayatollahs. We're hearing about these Ayatollahs. Well, I actually taught the Ayatollahs to see Billy Graham. And all of these things are good stories.
I know you're full of anecdotes. We'll get some of them next week. We've got something a bit special, and we'll see you
We
then.
will.
Thank you.
Blessings, dear Rodney.